This is Alabama Politics with Steve Flowers, an in-depth interview with Alabama's top political newsmakers. Now, from the studios of Troy University, here is Steve Flowers.
I'm Steve Flowers, and welcome to Alabama Politics. Folks, we're very fortunate to have one of my favorite friends, my young friends in state politics with me today, Mr. Derek Chen. Derek Chen is probably one of the most accomplished, well-liked 27-year-old people I've ever seen in politics. I met Derek about 10, 11 years ago, something like that, 5, 10 years ago, and I was on a book signing tour in Birmingham on the Sanford University Cumberland's Law School Republicans with my books, Goats, and Govers. I met Derek, and then he became a young lawyer there in Birmingham after he graduated from Cumberland and passed the bar and practiced his state tax law. And now he has become the best political person in the state. Everybody wants to buddy around with Derek. I don't go anywhere, but they say, "Where's your buddy Derek Chen?" Derek, good to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. It's really nice to be back, and it's always good to see you.
Well, Derek Chen is, like I said, a 27-year-old young Republican lawyer, very conservative. He loves politics. He chose to live in Alabama. He can live anywhere he wants to. He born and raised in Southern California and went to school at a private conservative school in Michigan for undergraduate college, and went on to Cumberland. He has his law degree from Cumberland and now has an MBA from the University of Alabama. So he's got a law degree, an MBA degree, 27 years old, and done well business-wise, and he's a successful young man, and I'm encouraging him to run for politics one day when he gets a little in a rest from running around the state helping everybody with their campaigns.
Well, I appreciate it, Steve. Yeah, I love living in Alabama. It's a state that I want to stay in for the rest of my life. You know, I was born in Southern California in Orange County, and went to undergrad school at Hope College, which is a private Christian college in Michigan. Studied political science, minored in history, and then I moved down to Alabama to go to law school at Cumberland, which was where I met you for the first time. And you were actually one of my first friends that I met when I first moved to Alabama, and I've just appreciated your friendship over the long years, and I just love being a resident of the great state of Alabama now.
You actually live in Vestavia. But Derek, going back to your childhood, your father's a successful businessman in Southern California. What is a town that it was like a suburb you live in and lived in growing up?
Yeah, the suburb was Diamond Bar.
What city was it in?
It's called Diamond Bar.
Okay.
It's a suburb of Los Angeles. It's right on the border between LA and Orange County.
Okay.
But I was born in Fountain Valley, which is right near Huntington Beach. And I went to high school in Anaheim, California, which is in Orange County as well.
Were you always conservative and liked politics growing up?
I was always conservative ever since I was a little boy. You know, it was really refreshing being able to live in Alabama now, where it's just a completely different philosophically as opposed to California. I stuck out like a sore thumb when I was living in California, and I'm glad I finally was able to make it out of there.
You know, let's go back to that point, though, back when your family's been successful, but they fled a bad regime or something, or did they?
Yeah, so my great-grandparents were in Chiang Kai-shek's army during the Chinese Civil War. So both of my great-grandfathers two of my great-grandfathers were generals in Chiang Kai-shek's army during the Chinese Civil War. And so they were fighting the communists, and as the communists began taking over large areas of land in mainland China, Chiang Kai-shek and the Nationalist Army started to flee to Taiwan, and they ended up retreating to the island of Taiwan. So that's where my family ended up being, was Taiwan. Both of my parents were born in Taiwan, and they ended up moving to the United States as children. And the catalyst behind that, Steve, was that during the Carter administration, President Carter decided that he wanted to switch diplomatic recognition from the Taiwanese government to the Chinese government. And when he did that, there was a lot of anxiety amongst the Taiwanese people because they thought that the communists would be invading the island since the Americans no longer recognized their government. And so everybody who tried to get out, who could get out, tried to get out and moved abroad. And so my grandparents decided to apply for visas to the United States, and they had to go through a long vetting process, and it took several years before their visas were finally approved. And you know, the interesting story, Steve, is when I was a kid, I always wondered, you know, why did they take so long to move from Taiwan to the U.S. after they thought that the communists were about to invade? And so I asked my grandfather at a family gathering, I said, "Granddad, why did you guys wait so long, several years, before you finally moved to the United States of America if everybody thought that the communists were about to invade Taiwan?" And I never forgot what he told me, Steve. He said, you know, what kind of example would I be setting for my kids if we broke the laws of our new country to get here? We had to do it the right way. Mm-hmm. And that's something that always stuck with me, was that you have to immigrate to the country legally.
You know, Derek, you've written several articles of interest in Yellowhammer News, which is a very, very popular online website that a lot of conservatives read. And it had to do with your own business experience or some ideas of trade and that sort of thing. Share with our viewers some of those thoughts you've expressed in some of those columns you've written about your own concept of free enterprise and how important that is to your heritage and,
yes,
and that sort of thing business-wise, and where you think the country ought to be heading business-wise.
Yeah, so it's so important, you know, as Americans, we take our form of government, our free market economy for granted. And there's always threats to our way of life. And I kind of have a different perspective because although I was born and raised in this country, I have family that lived overseas. And, you know, they recognized how great of a country, how great of a system that we have in the United States. And, you know, we can't take any of that for granted. It just takes one generation to lose all of our freedoms. And that's why it's been so important to me to stay active and be involved and speak up about conservative causes and free market causes of liberty and freedom across our country.
Well, I tell you, you are well thought of in the business community in the state for being successful business-wise, and as young as you are. But also, the fact that you really have gotten out and become involved in politics, and Republican politics specifically, conservative issues and conservative groups, you're a member of and been active in all the trade associations, business council, everything there is in the state. But also, Derek, you on the ground floor of Trump's efforts. I mean, you've been involved with Trump, and I'll tell our viewers this, he doesn't mind me telling you, Derek has been to Mar-a-Lago, invited to Mar-a-Lago, which is a very unusual thing that someone is that close to President Trump, that for a 57-year-old to be invited to Mar-a-Lago, a 57-year-old state senator being impressed, but you've been to Mar-a-Lago. Tell our viewers about your experience with Trump and anything, anecdotes you could share with us about you're already been at 27 years old, visited Mar-a-Lago. You've been to the Republican convention this year. Did you go in 2016 when he was first nominated?
I went to his inauguration in 2017 the first time. He was the very first candidate that I was able to vote for. That was the first election that I was old enough to vote in, and I voted for President Trump back in the 2016 Republican primary cycle, and volunteered for his campaign up in Michigan. You know, when in 2016, when I was living in Michigan, I was a student at Hope College. I was active with college Republicans, and as you know, it's a big swing state, very important state, and was proud to be able to help President Trump's efforts. And I've just always been a big fan and admirer of President Trump and his America First agenda. I think it's so important. You know, I've always been a Republican, but the very first candidate that I was able to vote for was President Trump, and I've just stuck with him throughout all of his campaigns, and I was proud to see him reelected just a couple weeks ago to be the 47th president of the United States.
Well, he must think a lot of you to invite you to Mar-a-Lago. I've enjoyed seeing your pictures over the years down there. Derek, one other thing I was going to mention, you've gotten to know a lot of our members of our congressional delegation, and you've helped them with their campaigns. You've been involved with Katie Britt, have you not? What's your concept of Katie Britt as far as being able to help her and also Coach Tubville? Talk about those two and your involvement with their campaigns. You helped them and were for them, and early on, I think, both of them.
I was a big admirer of both Senator Britt and Senator Tuberville. I think they're doing a great job representing our state on the national level. I have just a lot of admiration and respect for both Coach Tuberville and Senator Britt.
Have you ever seen a freshman get on the committees Katie got on? I mean, she got on appropriations, rules, and banking.
Yeah.
You know, if a freshman gets on any one of those committees, that's important. Now, you also developing a close relationship with Gary Palmer, the congressman from the 6th District, aren't you?
Yes. So he's my member of Congress, and he's done a great job representing our district. He is been a very strong conservative leader up in Washington, and you know it's so important to stay active. I think not just on the federal level, but also the state, county, and local levels, because every level of government affects the people, and you know we all have a responsibility to speak up for what we think is right. And I think that it's important to be active and stay involved in all levels of government, not just the federal level, but the state level as well.
You've been probably one of his best supporters for a while, and I know he appreciates it. Every time I see him, he mentions, I see your friend Derek, but he appreciates your help. If you would, talk about the members of the state Senate that you've helped with their campaigns. I know you were real active in Wes Kitchen's election after he left the House to move to the Senate when Clay Schofield became an activist in the BCA. Talk about Kitchens a little bit and some of the others you think a lot of that you've helped get elected to the state Senate or stay in close contact with.
Well, I've just been active in many different Republican campaigns. Big admirer of Senator Kitchens and the work that he's done. We have a lot of very talented people that are in the state legislature. We have a lot of very strong conservative leaders, and enjoyed getting to know them over the years. I've been trying to stay active in civically, and have been able to get to know several of them over the years, and enjoyed getting to know them.
Derek, now you also think a lot of that class, which I do too. It's not the freshman class; it's the sophomore class. I think they came in would have been 2020, I think, 2016. 2022.
Yes.
The class of 2022. In that class is Dan Roberts from Jefferson. Some of my favorites are in there. Gudger came in that class, didn't he? Gordon Gudger from Coleman.
I believe so.
But you also are a fan of one of my favorites is Will Barfoot.
Oh, he's great. Down in Montgomery.
Yeah.
And he's great guy.
I have Will on the show every year. He's one of my favorites, and actually we're distant related, but he comes on every year.
Yeah.
He's well thought of in this area.
Yeah. And I'm a big admirer of my state senator, Senator Wagner, who you just wrote a book on.
I was going to mention that. You know, give yourself credit. Folks, we've just finished a book on Jabbo Wagner, the longest serving state senator in Alabama history, 51 years. And I worked on it over the years, but we could not have written that book without the help of Derek. Derek sat with me and Jabbo because Jabbo and I are not technically proficient, and we were afraid we might lose some of the conversations. But Derek has spent a lot of time with me and Jabbo Wagner writing his biography, and I thank him for doing that. It's come out already, and we'll have some book signs around the state, and especially in Jefferson County where Jabbo's from, and we got a big one in February here at the State House, and I want everybody to come to that one too. But Derek, you enjoyed visiting me and Jabbo, didn't you?
I did. There was a lot of stories that I learned, a lot of wisdom from both that I picked up from both you and Senator Wagner, and I enjoyed getting to spend time with both of you. And I thought you did a fantastic job with that new book.
Well, thank you for your help on it. We got some good pictures. I got pictures of one of our favorites is a picture with Jabbo and Reagan. Reagan looks like he's saying, "I'm proud to meet Jabbo Wagner."
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that picture with President Reagan when Senator Wagner was running for Congress.
That's right. It sure was. Derek, talk to us some about other issues on the national level that you feel strongly about with Trump, and what did you foresee coming in this administration? Because you were a part of the Trump campaign, behind the scenes, helping President Trump get reelected, or elected from the 45th to the 47th. Do you have any strong feelings about some state issues that ought to be tackled, or what Trump ought to be doing in his second term? What do you think some things, because you're an economist really. I know you're a lawyer and an MBA business person, but you know business and you grew up around a businessman father. What do you think Trump can do different in this 4 years than Biden and them have done in the last 4?
Well, so during President Trump's first term, he passed a big tax cut, and that has helped the economy tremendously on every level across the country. And I think that something that the Trump administration can do is to continue the tax cut. That tax cut that was passed during President Trump's first term is scheduled to expire. And President Trump, as a business person, understands how government federal regulations affect different businesses all the way down to from big companies to medium-sized companies, all the way down to small companies, mom and pop shops. Excessive regulation negatively impacts all businesses across the board. And it negatively impacts small businesses particularly because in order to comply with such strenuous regulations takes a lot of attorneys and different people to help comply with that. So it really damages small businesses the most. And I think President Trump, as a business person, really understands that. So continuing to cut regulation on the federal level is going to be huge, which he did during his first term, and during his second term, the continuation of that, I think, will make a big difference. You know, that you see some of the states, Democratic states, led by Democrats, for example, California, you see Governor Newsom calling a special session to, quote, Trump-proof California. And it's really disappointing to see stuff like that, because the Democrats could not accept the results of an election, so that now they are trying to put up roadblocks on the will of the American people by trying to Trump-proof their state before the president-elect has even taken office. And it's really disappointing to see that President Trump won a resounding victory in the 2024 election, and it shows the will of the American people. We have to get back to strong conservative, America First principles, and move forward with that.
What's your concept of the tariffs? Do you think that raising tariffs will cause inflation, or what is your thoughts on that, as far as Trump's idea about he wants to, we've got to stop China from taking over the country. We've got communist China.
Well, we have to put our focus strong on helping American businesses, helping American manufacturers, and staying strong with respect to helping Americans and American workers. And I think that there's a lot of things that could be done on that respect. And cutting regulations from the federal level that don't make sense are going to be huge with respect to helping American businesses prosper. And, we have a lot of very influential companies here in the state of Alabama that do business all over the world, and it's important to be able to protect those businesses.
Don't you think it's good that he's bringing in very successful business people like Elon Musk and Ramaswamy to look at the efficiency of government too?
Yeah, the Department of Governmental Efficiency, it's well known that there's so much red tape, there's so much waste and abuse in the system, in the federal level of government, and it's important to start reining that in.
Someone would be wise to get you involved the same way the current governor or maybe the next governor, to bring you in to make sure the state is being run efficiently. Some state offices are being run efficiently, and what government agencies are really needed.
Yeah.
There could be some that aren't needed. I mean, I think they've identified in this workforce development situation that's the way to go, rather than the Department of Labor. So I would applaud Governor Ivey for moving in that, legislature moving in that direction, and them choosing Senator Greg Reed to help run that organization is a good move. But you'd be a good person to run a state agency as far as efficiency, with your business background and your acumen and your educational degrees and business and the law, to run a state agency, and you've been successful in business, and you know how to run a business and know how business operates. But the next governor will be wise to have you, work with them on things like that. And they all know you, so you may be asked to do that in the next administration, if not this one, as far as Kay is concerned. But what's your thoughts on that? Alabama ought to maybe take some of the same ideas from Trump about government efficiency, shouldn't they?
Well, you're very kind to say all of that. I am happy with my current efforts on making a positive impact right now as a holder of the most important office of our land, which is the office of citizen. You know, it's important for all of us to try to make a positive impact for our communities. But with respect to government efficiency, yes, the big chunk of the waste you see in the federal government, but there's always improvements to be done both on the state, county, municipal levels, and it's important to take a look at all of that as well.
You've got to know a lot of the county officials, haven't you? Not just the state officials. You've been involved with some of the local county officials, especially in Jefferson County, haven't you?
Yes.
Jimmy Stevens and Joe Knight and Mike Boland and all those.
Yes, yes.
You've been involved with the Supreme Court races, have you not? Some of the Supreme Court races. We've got a very conservative Supreme Court now. Yes. With all the Republicans over there. Every statewide office holder in this state is a Republican.
That's great, yes.
29 statewide office holders are Republican, 29 out of 29.
Right.
So you're in the right party.
Yeah.
If you're in Alabama, if you want to be in state government, you need to be a Republican.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, I always tell people it's funny. I guess it kind of runs in the family. I have family members that escaped communist China to Taiwan, and I escaped the Socialist Republic of California for the free state of Alabama.
I love it. Say that again. Now you escaped the Socialist California. What's that? How do you say that?
I always tell folks I escaped the Socialist Republic of California for the free state of Alabama.
and detoured to a very conservative private school too, to kind of graduate school.
Yeah.
So you knew you were a Republican early on in life.
I always knew that ever since I was little.
Who was president when you were born? And what year was that?
I was born in '97.
And so who was president? One of the Bushes?
It was President Clinton, and then President Bush took office in January of '01, so I would have been 3.
Uh-huh. Well, very good. Well, Derek has been a Republican all of his life. Folks, our time's up. Our guest tonight has been conservative activist and lawyer and businessman Derek Chen, and we thank him for taking time out of his schedule to be with us. And we thank you, viewers, for watching. Hope you tune in next week for Alabama Politics. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Derek.
This has been Alabama Politics with Steve Flowers, a production of Troy University Television. Opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of Troy University, its administration, faculty, staff, or students.